all new. So,
Awesome.
all right.
I got a whole big spanking introduction for you.
Do it. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't care if there's only 9 people there. Bring the KGB, experience.
Okay, excellent.
Right.
Sorry about that. This is my
You're
favorite
getting
part,
the
man.
coveted Matt Yeager introduction.
I'm up at
This is
the
a
new
coveted
school auditorium.
This is what I was gonna say. I love this part
delivering
of
this to 600 people, because all of you are worth about 200 people just on your own. All right. So a way I like to think of the difference between a new critical approach and a historicist or even structuralist approach to understanding poetry is that the new critics were like, the way to understand a fish is by looking at nothing but the fish, and then cutting open the fish, laying out its little biological mechanisms all over the table, and then looking at these and categorizing them. A historicist sort of approach is like, the way you understand a fish is to study the water, study its properties, study the microorganisms the fish is sucking into its mouth, how all this organismic eating and pooping is invisibly affecting things like pH levels and viscosity levels and algae levels. And obviously, I'm also a marine biologist, like George Costanza. But the idea that no poets can be well understood without considering the cultures they emerge from, the ideologies they internalized, even the sort of physical activities they engage in, is probably a true idea. I feel like David's work shows us that. His work asks us to consider it through the various cultural traditions David himself introduces to readers of his books. If I were to try to put it into a kind of nutshell, which I like to try to do, David's work is about the intersection between the individual and the collective, and the ideas that the collective has put into each individual that comprises it. Ideology, says everybody's favorite Marxist Fred Jameson, is the intersection of the individual and the collective. So we could say then that DTM's work dramatizes a grappling with ideology, discovery and wrangling with what has gotten in one and what one is going to do about that. So I'll speak to one specific cultural tradition that we meet in his 2 books, Hustle and PTHD, Post-Traumatic Hood Disorder. And that cultural tradition is sports. DTM was a Division I collegiate basketball player. There was no way to do this, not without, more than 7 feet of height, without internalizing the ideology and ethos of sports. I'm not sure how it is with the children of today, but those of us who are on the wrong side of 40 had the whole panoply of ideals of masculine behavior yelled into us by grown men by the time we were 12. Not all of these ideals were bad. I say this because obviously a lot of them were fucking terrible. Some of them good and bad, kind of moving along the spectrum, never giving up, sacrificing for teammates, loving hardness, not whining, keeping your mouth shut if you're hurt, basically lying whenever someone asks you how you feel and you don't feel good, never letting team business out of locker room walls, even if it should be let out, punishing weakness so the person supposedly possessing it is either cured of the weakness or leaves the team. The relentless association of weakness with femininity. I mean, awful. That was something that I remember my senior year in high school, my senior year in high school, I had this really beautiful, bright white set of high top cleats. And it used to take me a while to get them tied and adjusted. And I was very particular. And so I was Nancy Kerrigan or, Princess Matilda. And I don't know. That was, very light. Anyway, as for those with intellectual interests inside the sort of hyper-competitive, hierarchical male demimondes that are locker rooms, as for those who have interests that involve books and silence and critical thought, they tend to pursue their interests in a closeted sort of way. So the closeted intellectual, the autodidact, the Goodwill Hunting type, who grows behind closed doors and then rejoins a crew, and then must negotiate between himself as an individual and a part of that crew. That's sort of a way that I can understand, and I think we can understand David. He writes his poem And One, which appeared in APR, in the third person. Look at the homie. Even when in a gang, he came home to crack Nietzsche. So, he's the gaze is, on the self from some kind of internalized what I think, an internalized male collective. And so, this grappling with these values, I think is something that is always, kind of what's either directly at stake or peripherally at stake in one of David's poems. There's also some of the joy of sport, which is physical, technical, tongue, the jaws, the lips, the throat, our whole mechanism for stopping our breath into syllables. It's a physical thing. It's a muscular thing. And some poets, I'm certain, hear words louder in the typography player in their minds when they're composing. And for some still, I think it's a muscular apparatus. The muscular apparatus of making words is sort of weirdly activated when they're composing. I envy this when I think I see it in poets. There's a certain amount of amuse-bouche, just this kind of love of articulated movement of teeth and tongue in what I would call David's syntactically compressed flow. And, and with that, with all that being said, I've, talked for too long, and we'll just leave his bio out of it and hear his wonderful poems. So hopefully that I didn't sound like a crazy person. DTM.
Thanks, Yeager. Man, that's it's astute. Thank you. I really appreciate that. You did a great job. The one thing, before even going on with the sports stuff, I still play basketball and I still play pickup, but pickup's pretty competitive, and pickup's about the closest thing you can get to, looking for a fight, without actually fighting. Well, not always, but like the one thing that I find interesting is like, because I still, we live in New York City, there's a certain element of urbanality. I live in Brooklyn, I live in Clinton Hill. I play basketball consistently, yet at the same time, I continue to read. And while now I'm more of a closeted athlete, where before I was a closeted intellectual, and it's that same struggle and the same negotiating of these two very sort of sometimes disparate places. But I like to think the game. It's interesting, to think the game, even at a physical level. Like, I'm going to bump into this dude really hard and then drop step and, oh, wait a second, there's a pass, or that sort of thing. So anyways, that was really great. Let's start with a poem. It's called Dad Joke. We'll go with that. These are all new. I'm about halfway done with the book, so. Dad joke. There are fathers that father from farther than others, and there are fathers further from fathering. So far from pitters are these pathers, so very far from sufficient our pinguid language, our beached, bloated purposes, so much so that I have fathered the neologism farther, which should not be pronounced farter, however appropriate. That was, yes, a farther joke. And if my study proves to hold fodder, I'll be considered the patriarch of the new field of patriotics, the argot of not discourse of fathers, ultimately reclaiming the uprooted meaning of patriot, though that's probably a bald cause. Sadly, don't make me stop this arrow star broke our momentum, because even the coolest mustachioed dad with a fleet of long-haired kids playing astronaut on an old school barber shop pole knows that he is next up for a moral haircut. And even the most frosted among us, those most unwilling to take any off the top, understand how hard it is, the exploration of Mars, seeking any habitable condition. We as a generation have arrived at a broken stoplight, no longer able to read the symbols of our modus ponens. Just ask any devoted father driving a minivan with fleece-covered seats, what are the jeopardies of being a daddy? That honeycombs or golden puffs hurled at a headrest can be dangerous as diabetes, as kicks to the cornea, as vicious as angry cyclops or cops, for some men as perilous as losing the treasure map to their importance. Like Puffy must have discovered with his Oedipal self, breaking the tabernacle daddy in a momentary lapse of fellowship with the fathers of the world. Granted, Freud would have noted that slaying the father, patricide, is an obvious gesture of maturation, or for our intentions, paturation. But what about slaying the you father, mercifully murking a seminal self? So what was Puff really tilting towards when he danced skyward, fully absorbed in silver orbed suit? What Darth Earth puffiness hidden his dad bod in that hasty edge up when Sean nonchalantly parted without any comb from a name and became just Puff, not Daddy? No snazzy etymology fathoming could remedy such betrayal of the pen. Is there a North Star available to install if you can't stop, when you won't stop, when you'd rather lift moons than raise your own sun? Thank you. This next poem I'm gonna read is called Always Be Completely Discreet. So it's the title is like the, that phrase is the first, runs over into the poem. So always be completely discreet is what my mom taught me about beauty. The ABCDs of being a lady, or in my case, she would add, a gentleman. She herself, however, has never been pretty quiet. When she was younger, the neighbors nicknamed her Tomboy. She still believes an Olympic gold in Moscow was her future, if not for boycotts and getting knocked up at 15. My formative years anchored her dating years. I knew before my dad that their divorce had already happened. That was a lot to run around with at 12. She used to internalize her attractiveness as heavy legs. So difficult turning down the advances of dentists and lesbians. I'm just athletic, she'd protest. My mom was pretty quiet when I told her that Uncle X and Uncle Y had molested me, which I didn't exactly tell her, but she read in a poem. A year later, in a park, while we watched my third child run around swings and slides, my dad didn't know how to ask how I felt or even if I had been molested. So he settled on asking if I was gay. It was said with heavy legs. We sat pretty quiet. It was 2 weeks post-surgery and a year from recovery because I had pushed my body too hard. I listed the names of the former professional athletes in my Sunday pickup game. He kind of joked and kind of poked when saying, "Who'd you blow to get in that game?" "I'm just athletic," I protested. Obviously, with all of the protests going around the country for the last months, some of us years. As I said earlier, I was in a gang and I sold drugs, and I have walked out of bathrooms and been, slammed by the police, and frisked and thrown in cars, and never beaten some of my friends, but I was also pulled over multiple times because either I had long hair and braids or a bald head and driving an old school sort of ride. And so these slayings of our Black brothers and sisters really affects me on a very personal level, being that I'm Chicanx, Latinx, and knowing the violence, the institutional violence that has been done to mi gente, but also growing up in predominantly Black neighborhoods, and where that were intersected with Mexican and Black neighborhoods, which often in urban neighborhoods, in urban areas, that's what happens. You know, we sort of share the space with each other. And so I wrote a poem sort of about that, because I wanted to, you know, I wanted to go sideways at it, because I don't know how to write a, like, you know, the police shouldn't be shooting Black folks and brown folks sort of deal. So it's called, Why Yes, I Am a Little Tipsy Officer. Why yes, I am a little tipsy officer, but I only had one sky tonight, and the wind was brisk. Well, maybe a little moon. It was too bright to resist. I waited the recommended 2 hours before driving. I was celebrating tonight, you see, sir, the fact that I'm alive and well, though seen again in the scope of your weapon. I have, admittedly, like a melted otter pop, dripped this winter eventide from New York to Connecticut. I changed states, abandoned continual sirens, candled in the night. Get out the city, they said. Experience a rainbow slither across the sky. So here I am, lost in illuminated navigation, with my music so low only your drug dog nods. My phone? It is a lark, so I may again embark into darkness. I am the one unarmed, but must make you feel safe. Oh yes, so egregious, officer, this turning, tussling without signaling. All lives matter. All lives, comma, matter. This rampant, a 55 and a 54. Sure, I can retrieve my child's car seat from the curb soon as I secure my license. No, sir, I cannot afford this car. Here's a poem. This is probably the oldest poem that I've written from this new collection. I'm halfway done with the third book. I have one title that I really like, another one that I also like. But this one I wrote. It's going to be in my friend Matthew Olsman's book. He has a forthcoming book, and Matthew asked me to write him a poem. And he was like, listen, I'm writing this epistolary book, and I'm also going to have some friends, and you know, David. No, he was like, I'm going to have some friends have poems in there. I was like, wait a second, in your book? I was like, am I getting paid? He was like, no. I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I got you, though. I'll do it. But I was like I'm a feature like Drake. And you know, he was like, yeah, sure, David, if you can be Drake, man. I was like, ah, cool. You know, it's like 4 years ago, man. Drake was really on everything at the moment. So he asked me to do that, and so I wrote a poem for him and Vibey, and it's gone through various iterations. There's a published one out there, but I changed it after about 2 years. I thought it was done, or I don't know, and then something was sort of bothering me, and I just, you know, I eventually went back to it. So, an alluded to letter from DTM for Matthew Olsman. And Vivi Francis concerning love, redemption, and the TV show Empire might not be the most august of openings, but like hypocrisy in this great falling hegemony, it's all I got. Besides, what's history but a conversation we're born into without context? And what is society but three friends who keep dipping to the DMs from a group text? Oh, America, our own onomastic study of the sacred misattribution, where the most valid ID states, I am Erica, in glittery pink hearts, the hologram hinting at the fact that this card holder has a dogmatic top 40 devotion, only eats organic granola and raises strays humanely. It's easy to be angry when the Constitution starts for some, we the people, and begins for others, well, see, you people. Some can't start a sentence without, to be fair. This is where, if I were a white poet, I'd be ironic, especially if I had in the Stevens vernacular a mind of winter, which is a generous manner of saying said poets emotionally snowed in. It's still socially unacceptable in my community to admit predispositions toward depression, in part because we think sadness is bougie. I sure as pig believed I was too broke to be depressed. Machismo culture means, Matthew, that we never needed any other emotion than power. Anything but anger was middling, that I never had the courage to be anything but mean, to say, hey, friend, I see your achievement. Hey, friend, I see your achievement. Hyperbole shades in what we are afraid to say. In my experience, when someone's really feeling you, they'll ask, you got some black in you. Don't lie. Beautiful black women ask me again what I am, touch my hair once more, tell me it must be the Indians in me. Tell me otra vez while holding my ears while I look up at you. Boy, for not having lips, you sure can kiss. Or as Lorca, that supreme sommelier of sensuousness, re-tasted, tierra de sombra come mi boca. Inceptive beauty, what on sturdy earth have you not already given? Skin can't be the night whitened by a moonish Newtonian consciousness. Loneliness has steeples. We up in church yet, Vivi? And here is where, if I were a white poet, I'd say black women are saving the world. Everywhere in panels on the praxis of eudaimonia, allies are being taken with the Holy Ghost. Some of the poorest poets swear by their craft with a K. A, politics, perfection, beauty were never white aesthetics. Despite this, pimps put white girls out during the day, black girls at night. Rachel Dolezal went on the nightly news and televised us with falsehoods, darkened us all. But she probably understood Lewis Simpson best, who said, every aesthetic statement is a defense of one's own. So when I say I love you, what I mean is I love what I am, but especially, maybe more so, what I've never been. So I'll read two more. Oh, this is a breast pump poem. I'm gonna read that one. I don't know how many of you have breastfed, but I haven't. I've watched it or have watched people breastfeed or attempt to in this case, and it's fucking hard, and it can fucking suck, and it can be very stressful, and to watch that is this sort of like to watch your partner really struggle with something and to feel that they're a sort of core function of their of who they should be, like can't or just it isn't there. And my partner couldn't breastfeed, and so she fucking struggled, and she tried with our first child and the second one, and by the second one, it sort of kicked in a little easier. But so this is about that. So like pumping. So there's a reference to a symphony in here. So you may not know that Medela. These are all like they're motors, like little yellow motors, and they go boop, 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 boop. It's like a fucking heartbeat. So the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends women breastfeed exclusively for the first 6 months. What an utterly rudderless hardship to watch you tinker every 2 hours for an hour at a time with bedhead like a miner's helmet, hunched over still healing cesarean stitches. Even if the bra is a bit risque and the phalanges straight out of your mother's erotica novels, there's a frigid air to having multiple frigid airs corpulent with frozen donor milk. And this damn yellow Medela, I'm telling you, is alive. In that devil box hot hooves approach. In your rented symphony, you hear, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. Our new monotony of the motor at midnight. This is how hunger mechanizes. Now, bear carries honey no more, never milk. Inside a mine gone cold, you're singularly bringing back coal. It's been 9 hours, 13 minutes, and 47 seconds since the last pump malfunction. Holding your phone like a brightly set lamp, you coax drips by softly whistling into the plastic bottles shaped like cages, hoping just one lax canary might flap. So this is the last poem that I have, or that I'll read, excuse me, not that I have. Yeah, I won't even, thank you for having me. Banana Republic. When I see the youth ribbon fanny packs around their bodies like 5-star generals in newly formed military dictatorships of grief, constantly invading their phones for more community, I feel a little nostalgia for my parents who let their hair grow unruly, joined a commune and protested Vietnam. They played drums with Mary Jane. How radical my parents must have been when listening to Jimi Hendrix and watching Naked Bellies vis-a-vis on American Bandstand, while their parents said interesting with the velocity of a fire hose. In this rebellion against the empire, my generation has struggled valiantly too, I can report. If nothing else, we gummed up the dated beta machines of our poorly lit upbringings. And boy, I don't know, but our nickelback heterodoxy seemed pretty effective at toppling capitalism when we donned backwards hats and red cross-colored denim or grungy flannels and combat boots, or even pink taffeta skirts and Bjork buns. Our Civil War statues in parks only pigeons attend will be of prints, pirating windows, and multi-winged music libraries. I need to believe a generation can be classic, not just a protest of ants in front of Indra who proclaim, "What a great boy am I." not just a drop of thunderbolts, not just successive ages needing to believe how prescient a generation we are, for endlessly stacking Legos and metal, making new monuments and old homes, for dressing wounds that were already becoming their parents. Gracias.
I'm trying to unmute everyone all at once, and I thought I used to be able to do that. They seem to have taken away unmuting everyone all at once. I can still mute everyone all at once, but that was great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's called consent, Jason.
David, that was wonderful. I just want to say it was so great to hear you read. I'm so glad I'm here. And wow, I guess I'll try to, I love this line that you said, and I wish I knew the whole thing, but it ended, love what I've never been. I just love that. I forget what that was, but it's just beautiful. So, wow. Anyway,
do people want to go refresh their drinks? Should we give people like a little bit of, you know, like if people need to go grab some, is everyone like ready? Or are we all?
A minute would be good.
Okay, yeah, so we'll take 5 minutes, you know, run out.
See ya. Okay.
Refresh your drink, attend to nature. I looked at the word you don't, oh wait, I can't even say it. Yeah, eudaimonia.
Mm-hmm. Like eudaimonia is what? Eudaimonia.
I lost my I had my definition up and then I lost it because I'm like this is what my Zoom classes are like. A contented state of being happy and healthy and prosperous, upbeat well-being, a fool's paradise, or an illusory state of well-being.
Keep going.
Commonly translated as happiness or welfare, human flourishing or prosperity. It is based on the Greek combinations of eu, meaning good, and daimon, meaning spirit. And it's a central concept in Aristotelian ethics and subsequent Hellenistic philosophy, along with the terms arete and phronesis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people are really having panels on that, but I find it a sort of funny thing. But, yeah, so.
Cool. So how old are your kids?
26, 21, 3, and 1.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's a wonderful family.
Yeah. The older children live in the Bay Area. They're near their mom, and I don't know where the younger ones are. Well,
they're right there, aren't they?
I'm being facetious. Yeah, they're upstairs. Yeah, allegedly. I may go up there later.
It's like wild style graffiti, you know? It's out there. Wild style.
I feel bad for you, Jason. You're gonna have to like listen to. The
exact same ones. I listen to exact same reading.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll be back.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to read some older stuff tomorrow too.
Well, if I know if I know that's your set, then I can like bring things that respond. Like if I know that's what's happening, then that gives me like a little tonal heads up.
Where are you with all that? I'm always interested in other people because there are people like Terrence Hayes. Terrence never reads fucking old shit. Never reads anything old. He's always like reading something new.
But that's because everyone actually reads everything he writes and cares about it and knows about it.
That's true.
I
also feel that's a Terrence thing, though. I also feel that's a Terrence thing. Wait a second. What are you trying to say about my work?
No, exactly.
I'm just saying, if I showed up and everyone were completely familiar with my oeuvre, I might only read things that they'd never heard.
Yeah, and I mean, there are other people that I know. They don't have that maybe ethos, but they have a sort of similar. They try not to, and I get it from Terrence. like I had asked Yusef, I don't know if I told you this, like we were having, after some deal, and he came to the college I was teaching at, and like we all went to dinner, and I already sort of know Yusef. We're at the very least friendly, and I was like thinking I'm gonna get this great story from him for the table and stuff, and people. And I was like, Yusef, tell us a story about like when you won like something big, because like what haven't you, like tell us a great story, like it'll be inspirational for like for young writers, man, and other people who are striving, like I was like myself, you know what I mean, and Yusef was like, by the time I won anything, I've been so over it, and I was on to the next project. I don't even think about it. And I was like, shit, man.
I was thinking, yeah,
that's like unfathomable to me. I was like, you didn't do a victory lap, and like
I'm gonna stop recording before I say this.